Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I have my update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows project. So I have my 5 palettes here and I will run through each of the shades that I had in for the month and we can talk about what is rolling out, what is staying in. But before we get into that, I do just want to go over my rules really quickly. So I have a pretty laid back project, I feel like, especially compared to other panners I've seen. So my rules for rolling a shade out are 1, obviously to hit pan on it. That is the ultimate goal, but I know myself and I know my collection, so I do have a couple other ways that I can roll shades out. One is to use the shade 10 times, and the other is to have a shade in for 2 months minimum. So I just set those other 2 goals just because I know there are shades in my collection that I am not going to hit pan on, and I am not somebody who can stick with shades long enough to hit pan on them if I am not close. So I just put those other 2 rules in there just because it makes it easier for me to cycle through the shades that are in this project, and I'm still getting a few uses on some of the shades, but I'm not necessarily aiming for pan for all of them. So those are my rules, and now we can jump into the shades that we have rolled in, and I'm just going to go in order of how I rolled them all in. So the first shade I have in comes from my Bella Cosmetics Lotus Love palette, and it is the shade Petals. So Petals is this matte purple shade right up top here, and I have had this one in for 2 months now, and this past month I used it 3 times for a total of 4 uses within this project. I am happy that I reached for a few more times this month than the previous one, just because I do really enjoy this shade, but it wasn't one that I really found myself reaching for too much. I don't really know what it was. I do love the shade. I think it's really nice. I just wasn't using it all the time. So only 3 uses this month, 4 uses within this project, but since it has been in for 2 months, I am going to be rolling this out. So our next palette up is my I Heart Revolution and Disney Mulan palette, and I had the shade Con. So that is this matte black shade right here in the corner, and I used this one 2 times this past month for a total of 2 uses within this project. This has only been in for 1 month, so I still have 1 more month to go on it. I know I am not going to get anywhere near pan in this shade. This is a fairly unused palette. It's not my favorite in my collection, but I am happy to have a shade in from this palette just to kind of force me to reach for it a little bit more, I guess. But I do kind of wish it was one of the more exciting shades, but it's fine. It's kind of a staple, so I just mostly use the shade as a liner, and I have used it a couple times and enjoyed it enough, so I will be keeping it in for 1 more month and will hopefully get at least a couple more uses out of it. Alright, next up we have another Bella palette in this project. This is the Oh Poppy palette, and I had the shade Poppy Petals. So Poppy Petals is this matte red shade over here, and this has also just been in for a month, and this past month I used it a total of 2 times. You can see a little bit of brushwork right at the surface of the pan here, but not too much usage on it yet. This one is a pretty bright shade on the eyes and isn't a shade that I find myself wearing for everyday looks all the time, but I did create one look that I really enjoyed with this, and I think I'm going to show a few looks that I did at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But I use this one and another shade that I'm going to be showing next for a look, and I really like how those look together. So not a shade that I wear a ton just because of the color of it, but it is still super pretty and good quality, so I am happy to be keeping it in for another month. Next up, we have my ABH Soft Glam palette, and I had the shade Mulberry. So Mulberry is this dark red shade over here in the corner. I have used this one 3 times this past month, and it has only been in for this 1 month. I would ideally like to hit pan on this shade, but I don't know that it's going to happen within this project. This is one of the more hard press shades, I would say, for this palette, because all of the other shades are super soft, pretty powdery, and show progress a lot easier. And I have used this one 3 times within this project, but quite a few more times beforehand, and there is really not much progress within the shade, and you really don't need a lot to build this up on your eyes. Pretty much one dip in the pan will cover your entire eye. So it's very pigmented, you don't need a lot of it, and it does not show progress as fast as the other shades within this palette, so I really don't know that I will be able to hit pan within this project, but it is staying in for another month, so we will see how much more usage I can get out of it. Alright then, our last palette up is my Wet n Wild Game Over palette, so I had shade number 4. And as you can see here, I did hit pan. I am super excited. It is my first pan within this palette, and I used it a total of 7 times within this project, but I did reach for it quite a bit beforehand. This is a bit of an older palette in my collection, and that is my favorite shade in this palette, so I did have quite a few uses on this already, and it only took me 7 more within this project, and I was using quite a bit of it when I was reaching into it, either smoking it out through my crease or packing it on the lid, so it didn't take me too much longer, and I'm so happy to finally have a pan in this palette, and I'm really happy it was that shade. So I do have a few looks that I want to talk about. These aren't going to be the highest quality looks because I just took them with my phone in the morning when I'm getting ready, but I really loved some of the looks I created this past month, so I did decide to take a couple pictures. So I am just going to show you the photo of the look and talk about the shades from this project that I used for them. So this first one up here is probably my favorite. I used the Wet n Wild Pac-Man shade, that light blue, for the inner portion of the crease there. I used Petals from the Be Bella Lotus Love palette in the outer crease, and then I deepened the outer corner with Mulberry. So I used 3 of the shades for this look, and I absolutely loved how this one turned out. The next look I have to share with you all uses Poppy Petals through the crease and then Mulberry for the outer corner. This is the one I was talking about with Poppy Petals, that I really enjoyed how this one came out, and I think it was a nice red toned, more summery look as well. So this is one I'm sure I will create again this next month to get some use out of those 2 shades. And then this last one here, I used the Wet n Wild shade through the crease once again, and I used Petals as well for this look and kind of blended it over top of this look. And those were the only 2 shades that I used for this one, but I really did enjoy how this one came out as well. A bit more fun, colorful look, so that was super exciting. So those are the 3 looks that I have to share with you all. I hope you enjoyed them. Let me know what you think, and also let me know how you would like me to continue to show looks. Would you rather I just popped up the picture of looks I created while I'm talking about the shades, or do this dedicated section and talk through them a little bit more? So be sure to give your input with that, and we can get right into the rest of this video. So these two palettes will be rolling out, and that means we have 3 staying in, and we get to roll in 2 new ones. Alright, so I have my Pretty Random app set from 1 to 1000, and this does include shades I have pan on and shades that have already been in this project. So if I get those, I will just go ahead and re-roll. So let's see what 2 numbers we get. First up is 970. That is a very new one in my collection. So 970 is from my ColourPop Back to Hogwarts palette, and it is the shade Nimbus 2000. And I will show you both of the new roll-ins after we finish up here. So next up is 136, complete opposite end of the spectrum here. So 136 actually comes from my Wet n Wild Pac-Man palette, which is the palette that we just rolled out. And it is shade number 8. I don't know if I want to roll this one in, just because I just rolled this palette out. But I do like that shade, so I might try it. I'm going to go look at these shades and see what we want to do. Okay, this might be cheating, but I'm going to re-roll and just see what we get here. So 676 is our next one up. And that is the shade from my Sigma Enchanted palette, and it is the shade Evergreen. Alright, our first new rolling comes from my ColourPop Back to Hogwarts palette. I think this one is just so pretty. And the shade we got is Nimbus 2000, a nice shimmer shade. I had all mattes last month, so pretty happy to be rolling in a shimmer, and that is one that I do enjoy from this palette. As you can see, this palette has not gotten a ton of love from me quite yet, but it is newer in my collection, so I think this will be a really good opportunity to play around with it a little more, and I am super excited about the shade that got rolled in. Okay, I did go ahead and decide to roll in my Sigma Enchanted palette with the shade Evergreen. So that is this dark matte green shade right here. I honestly debated over this and the Wet n Wild Pac-Man shade for quite a bit, because if I'm being honest, the Pac-Man shade is one that I could see myself hitting pan on easier. I don't know if it would happen within this project, but I could just see it happening easier than this shade. But I really want a chance to reach for this palette more, and I know I could just do that on my own, but having it in a project just really helps with that. So I did decide to roll this one in, and it's a new palette to this project. So I am pretty excited about this one, and I think it will go with the Nimbus 2000 shade that we just rolled in as well. So those are the 5 shades that are going to be in for this project. I will insert a picture of the color story for you all to see. I am pretty excited about this round. I don't know that I'll be able to hit pan on any of these, but I will hopefully at least be able to get some good use out of them, and we will just continue cycling through my collection. So let me know what you think of this project, what you think of the shades that got rolled in, and also let me know what else you would like to see from me. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future uploads. And with all of that said, I will see you in my next video. Bye!